All is well. Let me get my stuff together here. Happy Monday, happy Monday, happy Monday. The last Monday of the month. This month took forever and a day. A long month, but we are getting through it. I hope y'all are doing okay. I hope y'all are staying warm. And hope nobody's really snowed in, but I'm pretty sure some of us probably are. Snowed in, iced in, all of the above. I'm excited to jump on and talk about our topic for today. Thank you all for those who voted. I want to say, when did we vote? We voted not last week, but the week before for topics. And so we're on the second topic from that poll. So thank you to all of you guys that even went back after the fact and voted for the topic. Today we are talking about a safe space and what an actual emotionally safe space is. I wonder if this is kind of loud. Let me turn this down a little bit. What an emotional safe space is and what it is not. And then I'm going to follow up, actually, we're doing a little bit different today. I'm going to follow up with several questions that you can ask yourself to determine if a space that you're in is a safe space. Now, I know a lot of times safe space gets thrown around a lot, right? Just the term safe space, it may be an actual place where people say, oh, this is a safe space, or in a relationship being a safe space. I'm talking more about relationships and how to determine whether a relationship that you have with someone, whether it's platonic, whether it's romantic relationship, whether it's even, the workplace. There's so many different ways that you can kind of put this. But this is just a way for you to determine if a relationship that you have is a safe space and if there's actual safety there. Because sometimes we may have our own ideologies of what it is. And because something is just familiar, we think it's a safe space. And then that's really it. And that's not necessarily the case. So I hope this is helpful today. I hope this brings some solace, and we'll see how this goes. Hi, Gamer Crazy, welcome in. Hi, Family Labs, welcome in. Hello, Sophia Santiago, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining. Let me put my glasses on because I act like I can just see just to be seeing, and hey, I'm squinting because the screen is small, and that's fine. But I'm gonna put my glasses on. Is it Sana? Am I saying that right? Welcome in. Let me put my glasses on, y'all. There we go. There we go. Brighter day, brighter day. All right, so let's jump in, y'all. Let's talk about what an emotionally safe space is. And let me give you just a general definition. Again, this is general, okay? Sanila. I think that's what that is. Okay, Sanila. Hi, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining. I hope this is helpful to you guys. If do you guys feel like, and feel free to drop it in the chat, do you guys feel like you have a safe place to land? Whether it be with your emotions, with your friendships, with family, do you feel like you have a safe space? Drop it in the chat if so. Just say yes or no. And we're going to go into the definition of what a safe space is. All right, Sanila, thank you. All right, perfect. So what is a safe space? A safe space exists when a space does not activate emotional dysregulation, okay? So when you go into a space with someone, into a conversation, or go into a relationship with someone, and they're not consistently dysregulating your emotions, right? It's a space that allows for security, transparency, honesty, and growth, okay? It's not threatening to your emotional integrity. but supportive of your emotional maturity. There are levels of care, love, and respect with some levels of predictability. I know that was long, so I'm gonna go through that again. An emotional safe space exists when a space does not activate emotional dysregulation. It's a space that allows for security, transparency. Thank you for the lights, y'all. Honesty and growth. It's non-threatening to your emotional integrity, but supportive of your emotional maturity. There are levels of care, love, and respect with some levels of predictability. Hi, Haywood. Thank you. Thank you to my admin. Appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, so, and I'll go through that definition again because I know it's loaded, and I want to make sure that you guys, if you don't walk away with anything today, I want you to walk away with this definition. So I'm going to say it again, especially for those who are writing it down. But emotional safety or emotional safe space it exists when a space does not activate emotional dysregulation. It's a space that allows for security, transparency, honesty, and growth. It's non-threatening to your emotional integrity, but supportive of your emotional maturity. There are levels of care, love, and respect, and some levels of predictability. Now, are the spaces going to be perfect? No, right? Does some of this maybe show up here and there, maybe not intentionally or by accident, or just maybe someone just had a bad day? Yes, it could show up here and there. But if you have a consistent space where you're all the time dysregulated emotionally, where there's no feeling of security, there's no transparency, no transparency, there's no honesty, there's no element of growth or an attempt to grow, when there's no care, there's no love, there's no respect, that's when you'll be able to determine whether a space is safe or not. All right. So we're going to dive in. If this is your first time, my name is Debbie. I'm a certified mindfulness coach. This channel is all things mindful living, and that's really what we talk about. Most of the videos on my channel are going to be some of our meditations and reflections and journaling reflections. But then also every week we go live and we talk about a particular topic that you guys vote on, which this topic was voted on, I want to say 2 weeks ago. So thank you to all that voted. I'm also a therapist in training, so I'm pursuing my master's at Northwestern University, and am in internship right now, and already sitting with clients and have a full, not a full caseload, but a very, very close to a full caseload. So that's just a little bit about me. If you're wondering why I'm talking about all of these things. Awesome, thank you. Okay, I get it. Thank you. All right, so when it comes to emotional safe space, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what a safe space is, and then we're going to talk about what it's not. And then I'm going to give you some questions at the end that you can ask yourself to determine if someone is offering you a safe space. Feel free to stop me. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. It's perfectly okay. This is very much an interactive environment. And let's dive in, y'all. Let's dive in. Okay, so an emotional safe space is what? What is that? What does that look like? Okay, it is the first thing you want to understand. You can express yourself freely without criticism or performance. Okay, you can express yourself freely without criticism or performance. All right, if you are in a relationship with someone, again, this is platonic, this is friendship, this is family, this is whatever type of relationship, and you feel like you have to perform for them all the time in order to be in relationship with them, that may or may not be a safe space, right? In a safe space, you're able to freely express yourself without criticism. Now, holding someone accountable and criticism are two different things, right? There's a difference between, someone wanting you to be better and they are holding you accountable and they're giving you honesty. And then there's the other side of someone being super judgmental or critical of you to the point where you're not able to even freely be yourself. There's two different avenues, okay? So you can express yourself freely without criticism or performance. You are valued in that relationship, and not only valued when it's beneficial for the other person. Because someone can show you or tell you that they value you, but they may be valuing you for what you do for them, not necessarily like when, not necessarily just for you just being who you are, okay? When did I start? Did I start being a mindfulness coach, or when I started going into school? I can tell you both. I started as a mindfulness coach back in 2020. So during the pandemic, I got certified specifically in 2021. And when I started school, I started last year in March. Was it March? I think so. Yeah, I think it was March. And I have actually almost a year left. So I'm almost done. I'll be finished. I'm in practicum, then going into internship, and then I'll be finished. Thank you for your question. All right, so that was number one, in an emotionally safe space. Number two, your experience is listened to and addressed with love, care, and honesty. Your experience is listened to and addressed with love, care, and honesty. Okay? If someone is creating a safe space for you, active listening is a big part of that. Them being able to hear you, them being able to listen, and they may not agree, right? They may not always necessarily be on your side, but they are willing to listen and they're willing to hear your side of things, right? And when they are addressing your side or they are addressing your experience, they're addressing it with love, they're addressing it with care, and they're addressing it with honesty. But through that honesty is kindness, because some people take their brutality as honesty, and it still may not necessarily create a safe space. Okay? So that was number two. Number three, in creating an emotionally safe space or determining if something is an emotionally safe space, is boundaries are respected and accountability is a priority. Okay? Boundaries are respected and accountability is a priority. All right? So the person or that space challenges you to be better in an encouraging way, right? Because ultimately, when it comes to a safe space, you want there to be able to have an opportunity for growth. You always want to have a sense of, an opportunity, having the opportunity to be better. And so, it being a safe space isn't just them telling you yes all the time, right? It's being able to set boundaries in those situations, and for that person or that space to respect that boundary, but also holding you and that other person or that space accountability. Okay? So that's really what that's honing in on. Being able to respect boundaries and accountability being priority. Omar, welcome in from Philly. Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, so that was number three. Number four, when thinking about if you have a emotionally safe space, curiosity is present instead of judgment. Curiosity is present instead of judgment. So instead of someone coming into this space and just judging you for whatever you're talking about, whether it be an experience or a situation or a thought, they're just more curious about it. They're asking questions. They really want to know and understand your where you're coming from, and get a good understanding of your thought process and why you may think a certain way, but they're not necessarily approaching it with judgment to judge you, right? Or to get information out of you, to judge you even more, to criticize you even more, right? So curiosity is present instead of judgment. That was number four. Number 5, vulnerability is not used as currency, right? Vulnerability is not used as currency. So they're not taking the things that you have shared in confidence and in secret and then turning that around and using it somewhere else, right? When you think of currency, when you think of money, you pay for something, you give that money to that person, and you get something back. We don't want that when it comes to having a safe space. When you're vulnerable and you're transparent. You give that gift of vulnerability to someone. You don't want them to then therefore take that and give it to someone else, or to take that and to turn it back around against you and use that at a later time, right? So that would definitely be an indicator of someone not being a safe space when your vulnerability is manipulated in that way. Okay. Um, that was number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was number 5. So number 6, a space of ambiguity and flexibility, right? They don't have these rigid rules or expectations on your relationship. You can change your mind freely. You can be given space if you need to be given space. You can have differences and still be able to recover, right? Differences of opinion or differences of experiences. You're not going to agree with everyone and in every space. And being in a space where people understand that is how you're able to create a sense of safety. Because we're humans, right? And in this human experience, we're going to ebb and flow. Things are going to change. Things are going to alter. And sometimes people have a difficult time navigating spaces like that, and they have these rigid rules and expectations in their mind that they may tell you or not tell you, and because of those rigid rules, they're unable to be flexible in a space when things change, and it creates a sense of dysregulation, emotional dysregulation, and can cause harm in relationships. Okay. Hi, Woodsy. Welcome in. That was number 6. And then the last one here, when it comes to an emotionally safe space, is repair and reconciliation is possible, right? Repair and reconciliation is possible. I like to say always possible, but I know not everybody agrees with that. In some spaces, it shouldn't be. But when it comes to repair and reconciliation, that's there for in those situations where you may disagree, right? It may be a space where you may not agree 100%, or something may happen, or there may be, where somebody fell short at some point, which is bound to happen in human relationships, right? So just understanding that repair and reconciliation is possible, and having some sort of a sense of that in this type of space can add to creating a safe space. Okay. What do you do? I am a mindfulness coach as well as a therapist in training. And hello, welcome in, Canadian Crusader. Welcome in. So that is just the overview of an emotionally safe space, what it is. All right. So then talking about what an emotionally safe space is not. School principal guy, I would never, ever be a school principal. But what an emotionally safe space is not. So let's talk about that. An emotionally safe space is not where everyone agrees with no accountability. And I kind of alluded to this, right, in the first round. It's not a space where everyone agrees with no accountability, right? If someone is just telling you yes just because that's what you want to hear, or you're just telling them yes just because you think that's what they want to hear, you're enabling, that person, or they're enabling you to do things that just aren't healthy. Not telling you the truth, telling you half truth, truth without Empathy also, right? Because sometimes when we're trying to create a safe space, we're like, oh, I'm just being honest, I'm just being honest. But sometimes that honesty, if it's not given correctly, or if it's not given with empathy or kindness, it can feel like brutality to the other person. So it's more so of, yes, you want to be honest and truthful in relationship, but also taking into consideration and empathizing with the other side, and understanding that with this truth, I have to at least present it in a way to where it can be received. So a space where everyone agrees with you with no accountability wouldn't necessarily be a safe space, even though people may disagree. Um, Welcome in, Golden Fisherman. Okay, thank you so much for joining. Okay, so when it comes to another area where emotionally safe space is not, it is not disrespectful, it's not passive or dismissive. Okay, thank you to my moderator. I appreciate you. It is not disrespectful, passive, or dismissive. All right. Sometimes we take disrespect and passivity and the dismissiveness or even the avoidance because of the type of relationship or even the time frame of the relationship, right? And because it's something that we have unknowingly maybe accepted in the past, we feel wrong for removing ourselves from situations because it's something that we received and we accepted in the past, and now that we see or are aware of it now, we feel like we can't do anything about it. You can. Okay, you can do something about it. All right. So if the space is disrespectful, passive, or dismissive, then what that space is definitely not safe, right? If there's fake niceness, undercover jealousy, or even just the feeling of someone's a frenemy versus a friend, like all of those thought processes that we kind of come across in relationships where you're like, oh, I kind of feel like there's jealousy there, or I feel like there's, some levels of envy, or even just the fake niceness. People are just nice just because they feel like they have to, but they really ain't rolling with you like that. Like, those wouldn't be considered safe spaces, right? Now, not to say, yes, reciprocity, absolutely. That's not to say that these people are people that you necessarily have to cut off, but you would want to understand that this is who they are in your space, and with that, you have to decide on how you want to interact with that person. Because some people you may not want to interact with at all, but some of them you may have to, right? This may be somebody that you work with. This may be, somebody that you're in school with, or like there may be some interactions where you have to be with them for some extent, right? But understanding who they are and placing them where they're supposed to be is what's most important, right? If I know that someone's a friend of me, that's not somebody I'm going to necessarily invite over my house for to watch a movie or to chill or to go out and party with or whatever. And sometimes we blur the lines because of us wanting to either be liked, or we want to be able to be in a particular friend group, so this person has to tag along. And like, just understand who these people are in your space and place them where they're supposed to be. Are they inside the bubble, or are they outside of the bubble? Or are they all the way down the street from the bubble? Or are they, you know what I mean? Like, really take into consideration how you want to engage with this person. But know that it's not a safe space. Okay? Another thing to think about when it comes to an emotionally safe space is not a space with no discomfort. Okay, want to say that again. An emotionally safe space is not a space with no discomfort. You may have an emotionally safe space, but there may be some discomfort, right? Because how can we grow? How can we be better? How can we be challenged? How can we be held accountable if there is no level of discomfort? Don't allow uncomfortability to be an indicator of whether someone is a safe space or not. They could be, now granted, uncomfortability can be Just kind of depends. If it's like weird, like predator uncomfortability, that's something different. But I'm talking about someone tells you something in love, and them telling you that in love, that honesty in love makes you uncomfortable or makes you uneasy, because you know for a fact that what they're telling you is true. You may not be ready to accept it or to receive it, but that's the level of uncomfortability I'm talking about, right? So understand that just because you are seeing something as a safe space it does not mean that discomfort doesn't show up, okay? So it is not a space with no discomfort. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Absolutely. The more comfortable you become with being uncomfortable, the better you will be when it comes to growth, because growth comes with a little bit of pain, sometimes a little bit, sometimes a lot of bit, but it's good. That's going to come with it. Okay. Okay. Next one. When it comes to a safe space, it's not always familiar. Okay. A safe space is not always familiar. And we sometimes mistake familiarity with this is a safe space. Just because I know them, just because I've been here before, just because this is someone that knows me, that's automatically a safe space. And do they really know you, right? They may have known you at a certain season of your life, and you may not be that you anymore, right? So just because somebody is familiar, just because a space is familiar, or even just your backgrounds are familiar, that doesn't mean that they're automatically a safe space, right? We may think about that when it comes to race, right? Just because I see another Black woman, hey girl, what's up? I love you, whatever. But at a certain point, you want to still determine, like, just because it's a Black woman and this is familiar and we have the same likes and we have the same dislikes and we associate it with each other in all of these different ways, it doesn't necessarily mean that she's automatically a safe space, right? And that's not to say if I was to go into a situation with an Asian woman and see, like, oh well, she's a woman and but she's Asian, so she may not get me. That may actually be the safe space. You never know, right? So just automatically thinking and seeing something as familiar and automatically saying, okay, this is a safe space, is sometimes how we get hurt, right? Familiar spaces can be uncomfortable too. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, The Battle Zone. I appreciate you. Wish I was a Black woman with a large safe space. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we can find safe spaces in many different places. And I think me saying that is more so just an understanding that with something just being familiar doesn't necessarily mean that it's automatically going to be safe. And sometimes we get our feelings hurt because we assume something is going to be a safe space just because it's familiar. That's really the point that I want to hone in on right there. Okay. And then familiarity can come from survival, right? Our bodies, our nervous systems are built to be able to keep us safe, right? And safety doesn't necessarily, within our body, within our nervous system, it doesn't necessarily know the difference between a perceived threat or an actual threat. So anything that's going to come up as a threat, right? Our bodies are going to automatically react to that thing because it seems familiar, right? But it's up to our brains and our minds and our thought patterns and the way that we engage with our bodies to explain to ourselves, like, hey, yeah, this feels familiar, but it feels familiar. Why, right? It feels safe. Why, right? Because sometimes something just feels safe because we've been there before. Fight or flight, absolutely, right? Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, because there's still freeze and fawn too. So just understanding that familiarity doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe. Okay. A safe space, when it comes to, where were we at? We were at what an emotionally safe space is not. It is not a space where you overshare without consent, right? It's not a space where you overshare without consent, all right? Sometimes when we go and we find a safe space, we pour, and we overwhelm the other person, or we overwhelm the space, right? It's a matter of understanding what to share, what not to share, and knowing who you can share these things with, right? Someone may be a safe space, but they may not necessarily be a safe space for certain things. Okay, so for example, if you go into when you're thinking about your workspace, or you have like your friend, your work bestie at work, they may be a safe space when it comes to work things, but when it comes to personal things, you may want to, it may be too much, right? So understanding the safe space that you have and what its purpose is will take you a bit further when it comes to determining whether something is a safe space, right? There's some things that I will share with my sister who's a safe space that I wouldn't share with my best friend, right? It's just different, right? So just understanding that oversharing without consent is a big piece of it too, because some people ain't equipped, right? Sometimes we find someone that's a safe space, but they may not be equipped for certain things. They may not be equipped for certain information. And we just go and we just overshare and just tell everything. It could be very overwhelming for that person to where they no longer are a safe space because we overshared. I hope that makes sense. But yes, that is what an emotionally safe space is. Not a space where you overshare without consent. Another space would be where others manage your emotions for you. We talked about this last week. It ain't nobody else's job to manage emotions but you. Okay. Yes, we have triggers, and people can be very much aware of those triggers when it comes to your emotions, but it's nobody else's job to manage your emotions but for you. And sometimes when we think about a safe space, we want people to handle and manage our emotions in addition to listening and being an active listener, right? And being a support and being a friend. And putting that burden on someone else in a safe space can damage a relationship. Thank you so much for subscribing. I actually did write a book. It's called Nah Self, Let Me Be Great. It's actually it's a book, and it's an inspiration and workbook. You can get it on Amazon. If you type in nah ... self, it should pop up. Thank you so much for asking. But just to give you a caveat, the book is specific to self-esteem. So if you're having difficulty with building self-esteem and you want support in that, that's what that book is for. I will be writing more to come. I'm finishing my master's first, and then and then we'll get there. I don't know if I'm gonna go for my doctorate, but we'll figure that part out. But yes, so that was, where were we at? Yes, managing emotions. So yes, so when it comes to a safe space, it is not a space for that person to manage your emotions. You ultimately have to manage your own emotions. And when it comes to that other person, they can support you in managing your emotions, but they're not there to manage it for you. Okay. And then another thing that it is not a space where harm is ignored or avoided just to keep the peace, right? Ignoring, being passive, being dismissive, being avoidant, that doesn't create a safe space. That avoidance and that ignoring and that dismissiveness just delays the blow up, right? And it makes the blow up even bigger, okay? Avoiding conflict is not the same as creating safety. All right. Even though it may feel like that, especially when it comes to our own regulation, it may feel like avoiding the conflict altogether would create a sense of safety, but it doesn't. It's just another notch in the subconscious belt that we have in our brains that will come up down the line. So it's not a safe space if there's a lot of avoidance, if there is a lot of dismissiveness, and the just keep the peace mentality doesn't always work in our favor. There are situations where you may say, I'm gonna just let it go and let it roll off because it's not a big deal. That's one thing. But if it is a big deal and it's continuing to press on you, it can create some conflict or bigger conflicts down the line that can cause really big emotions to the point where it makes it difficult for reconciliation, like we talked about earlier, and for emotional repair and relationship repair. Okay. So keep that in mind. I hope these what it is and what it's not was helpful. I hope it gave some sense of giving you a good idea of what to expect when it comes to creating a safe space for someone else, or when considering whether someone is a safe space. Okay. What I have here are several questions that you can ask yourself to determine if someone is creating a safe space for you. Thank you, Mark. I'm glad that this was helpful. Thank you, the Battle Zone. I'm glad that this is helpful. Phil, if you want to take down any of these questions, let me know. If you need me to repeat anything, there are several questions. I tried to bring it down. There's at least like 9 questions here, but these are a way for you to be able to really say, okay, I want to know if this person or this relationship that I have, if it is a safe space. Here's some questions you can ask yourself. Do I feel heard even if their advice is hard to hear? Do I feel heard even if their advice is hard to hear? Okay. Are you allowed to have a voice and to voice the emotions, and you feel heard, and then they're able to give you advice, even though it may be hard advice, you know for a fact what they're saying is true, but it may be hard to hear, but you still feel heard, right? There's a difference between someone giving you advice and then not listening to anything you have to say, right? How you define the boundaries of those pushing the limit? What do you mean when it comes to like someone invading your privacy in a way? Is that what you mean by pushing the limit? Define pushing the limit for me, just so that way I have a good understanding. Because I'm just thinking, when it comes to someone pushing the limit, that can be of many factors, right? They could be pushing the limit physically, pushing the limit emotionally. They could be pushing the limit to just get more information, right? Hi, Epstein like kids. I appreciate you joining the live. I appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, so then when it comes to how you define the boundaries of those pushing the limit, just letting them, there's several different ways, just letting them know, and it kind of depends on how they're doing this. If this is something that they're doing in conversation, if it's something that they're doing in groups of people, if this is something that they're doing just in inquiring, in those situations, you have to vocalize what that boundary is and be very specific and intentional. You can be kind in telling them what the boundary is, right? But being very specific about it and what you are expecting from them. Because sometimes we may say things in passing. You'll be like, well, I kind of don't like that. And then we just kind of move on to the next thing. No, you want to be very specific, and it may be even pulling them to the side and maybe having like a side conversation about it. I just want to talk to you and tell you that this specific thing bothers me. And it bothers me. You can even say why, this bothers me for such and such a reason. Is there a way that you can do this differently, right? There's so many ways that you can approach it, but I would say be intentional about it, be specific about it, and depending on what it is, be private about it. Go to them and them alone, not necessarily calling them out in front of people, or because sometimes people do stuff not even like realizing that they're doing it. So just be intentional, be specific, be private, but then once you set the boundary, don't you go surpassing the boundary either, because then that creates confusion, right? So if you're telling them like, oh, this part of my life is something that I want to keep private, but then 2 weeks later you're talking to them about that part of your life, that creates confusion in the relationship, and now they don't know what to do with that, right? So be specific, set the boundary, do it in private, be intentional about it, but also make sure that you're also sticking to the boundary with them, right? Not allowing yourself to surpass the boundary. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so we did the first question. Do I feel heard even if their advice is hard to hear? The second one is feedback offered with care or to control. Is feedback offered with care or to control, right? Sometimes people give feedback or give advice because they're trying to control your outcome or control control your actions, right? So understanding that, is it offered with care? Is it offered with intention? Is it offered with love? Or is it offered with control, with manipulation, with some sense of, okay, awesome. I'm glad that was helpful. With some sense of manipulation, right? And being able to determine what's happening there. But is feedback offered with care or control? The third question, do I shrink, self-abandon, or overfunction to belong in this space? All right. Do I shrink, self-abandon, or overfunction to belong in this space? I'll say that one more time because this is a big one, right? Do I shrink, self-abandon, or overfunction to belong in this space? All right. This is huge. And this is really a big indicator of whether a space is a safe space or not. If you feel like you can't be yourself, where you have to shrink, you have to minimize yourself, right? Or you have to self-abandon yourself. You have to abandon your values, what you care about and what you love in order to be in this space. Or you have to overfunction. So you have to outperform, you have to overperform in order to be in this space. Then if the answer is yes to any of those areas, then that may be a space that may not be as safe. Now, there are factors in our professions and in our careers, whether it be like mentorship or anything like that, where you feel like you may have to pull back a bit. We all know that the workplace ain't safe. Okay. It's not necessarily always going to be safe, right? We know that and we get that. This is more so in relationship, right? In your close relationships, the people that you consider to be your people, right? Do you have to shrink? Do you have to abandon your values? Do you have to overfunction? Do you have to overperform in order to stay in that space? That's what I'm talking about, okay? Define self-abandon. So basically, if you have a particular value, right, and you feel like once you go around a certain person or go into a certain space, you have to minimize that thing that you value, or you have to minimize that thing that you're passionate about, right? So, for example, I'll give you just a very light example. Like, if I love giraffes, all right, like giraffes is my passion, like that's my thing, and I have a specific friendship that I can no longer. I talk about giraffes in any and every other relationship, but when I get to this specific relationship, I all of a sudden cannot talk about the thing that I'm passionate about or the thing that I love, because it makes that other person feel a certain way. Is that person safe? Right? Now, granted, that was a fun, lighthearted, example, but there is some validity there where we feel like we have to abandon the things that we value and that we're passionate about in order to be in relationship with that person. Okay? I'm trying to think. Let me think of an example that's like a real example. If I am in a romantic relationship with someone, right, or I'm attempting a romantic relationship with someone, and they are doing something criminally wrong, they are a criminal in a certain situation, right? And I have my own morals and values, and I feel like what they're doing is completely wrong. Me being and continuing to be in relationship with that person now creates an internal conflict within myself, because now I'm with someone that's doing something that I know that is wrong, that I am against, that I don't like or love, but I continue to be in relationship with them. That's self-abandonment, right? Especially when initially going into a relationship. I talk about this sometimes, but when it comes to like finding a relationship or going into a relationship, you don't compromise until you have decided that this is the person that you want to be with, whether that be girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. You don't compromise leading up to that, right? So when it comes to, is this something that I want to date? You have to be I feel like you have to be very rigid with the person that you go into a relationship with, and then compromise comes thereafter. So when I'm thinking about self-abandonment, you're initially going into these relationships knowing and understanding that there is a conflict, that you're like, I don't like this. This is not something that I agree with. It goes against my values. It goes against my morals. But you continue to ignore that conflict and continue the relationship. I hope that makes sense. I babbled a little bit, but I hope that gives you a picture of like what I mean by self-abandonment. Because ultimately in relationships, we abandon ourselves a lot in order to stay and remain in these relationships, and wonder why we're burned out, why we're frustrated, why we're angry all the time, why we're resentful. And a lot of that just comes from us abandoning ourselves. Okay, I babbled. Sorry, y'all. Next one. Are emotions treated with care or as an inconvenience? Are emotions treated with care or as an inconvenience? If your vulnerability is an inconvenience for somebody, that's not safe. Now, granted, sometimes people do it a lot. They are vulnerable a lot. They express their emotions a lot, and it may be too much for someone. But if it's always inconvenience, if it's always a problem, if it's always an issue, that person may not be a safe space to land. Next question. What happens in my body in this space? Does it tense up or does it soften? What happens in my body in this space? Does it tense up or does it soften? Your body will tell you a lot about your emotions and what you're feeling before your brain tells you, right? A lot of our emotions are somatic, which means it lives in the body. It's very physical, okay? So especially when it comes to your nervous system, and your nervous system is going to react many times before your brain reacts, okay? So when you have a tense feeling or around someone, don't ignore that, right? If you feel relaxed and you feel, a little bit more calm in a certain situation or within a certain space with a person, really have awareness of that. Okay, this is just awareness of the body. Next question. Do I feel the need to always rehearse or practice what I say? Do I feel the need to always rehearse or practice what I say, especially in a relationship with a specific person? Do you always feel like, okay, I need to talk to them about this, but I'm going to rehearse this, I'm going to rehearse that? If you're having to consistently rehearse, then you're not being yourself, right? You're not freely emoting. You're not freely and authentically being who you are if you feel like you always have to rehearse or practice what you have to say in order to go into the presence of this person. Right? Now, granted, there is some element where, I need to say something difficult, or I need to say something hard, or I need to set a boundary. I've never set a boundary with this person before. That's one thing. But if you feel like just to be able to have a simple conversation with them, that you have to consistently rehearse every time, that may or may not be a safe space. Okay? And then also, too, just understanding how you're leaving conversations. Do you feel drained or do you feel burned out when you leave a conversation with this person? Do you leave confused all of the time when leaving a conversation with this person? Or asking more questions? Are you overthinking all of the time? Are you thinking negatively about yourself when you leave a conversation with this person? Thinking about how you're leaving the conversations. Do I feel better? Do I feel lighter? Do I feel loved? Do I feel cared for? Or do I feel burned out, frustrated? Do I feel resentful, right? So thinking about how you feel when you leave their presence is important. A few more. Can I express disappointment without fear or backlash? Can I express disappointment without fear of backlash? Okay. If you feel like there's a disappointing moment and you want to express that to that person, but there is a fear, an innate fear of their response, is that person a safe space? Now, granted, if you're sharing some big disappointments and you're afraid to share, that's one thing. But if you feel like if there's anything bad news or anything that where you feel just a little level of disappointment, even if it's small, or if you disagree with something, even if it's small, and you fear that you're going to get backlash, is that a safe space? Okay. And I'm not saying ask the one question and determine that it's not a safe space, but this is the beginning of really thinking about the people that you're spending the most time with, the people that you confide in, all of those things. Are these people actually a safe space? Okay. Am I constantly interrupted, corrected, or redirected when I share? Am I constantly or consistently interrupted, corrected, or redirected when I share? All right. Am I consistently interrupted, corrected, or redirected when I share? All right. Are you criticized heavily with how you share? Now, before I go there, you need to think about also, how are you sharing? Because we may not be sharing in the best way. But if you feel like you're consistently interrupted, corrected, or redirected, you want to double check. You want to put a pin in that. Is that a safe space? Is access to me treated as a right or a privilege? Is access to me treated as a right or a privilege? Okay. Some people feel like they are supposed to have access to you all of the time, right? And if that is the case, how does that show up in the relationship, right? That may be a hard one to navigate, because there are some relationships where you're like, oh, they can call me whenever, they can do whenever, right? But if at any point, if it feels like it's an overwhelming feeling of, oh, I can't, this is a privilege to have access to me versus this is a right to have access to me, there's a difference. There's a level of what's the word? I'm losing the word. It'll come back to me. It will download eventually. Next question. I'll come back to it. When harm happens, is there room for repair? When harm happens, is there room for repair? All right. And when harm happens, or when an issue comes up, or when a disagreement comes up, is there always a sense of, we can repair this? Or I at least will be able to talk to them eventually, right? You may not be able to talk to them right away. If tensions flare, you may need to give it some space. But is there room for repair? Some people cancel people after one situation. That may not have been a safe space, right? If they cancel you after one thing, after one disagreement, if you are dead to them after that one thing, that wasn't a safe space, okay? And then the last one here, which kind of goes with that one, are apologies followed by changed behavior? That's a big one, y'all. That's a big one. Are apologies followed by changed behavior? Now, granted, we're human, so yeah, it may take a few times depending on what that thing is. But is there even intention to that changed behavior? To change the behavior after an apology was made? Okay, yes, I apologize for such and such. I did this and this was wrong. I want to do better. I want to be a better version of myself. Is there changed behavior following that, or are they doing the same thing over and over again? If they're doing the same thing over and over and over again, one, you want to think about the thing, right? Is it something that is in their control? Is it something that, because I think the first thing I think about is like addiction. Sometimes addiction is not necessarily just something that they can stop, but right away, right? It takes some time. You want to think about what the thing is, but is there an innate effort to have changed behavior, right? And if not, is that really a safe space? Hi, Jonathan, welcome in. Is that really a safe space? Okay. I hope this is helpful, y'all. I love this topic. It wasn't something that was on my radar initially, so I'm glad everybody voted for it. I think we have one more topic that was on that that poll that we'll do next week, which I can't see. What is that topic? Let me look to see what the topic is really quick. The name of my book is called Nah Self, Let Me Be Great. So NAH ... self, let me be great. Do I have one? I don't think I have one here. I think I got rid of all of them. All of them are gone, which is a good thing. Yeah, I don't have one here. But yes, it's called Nah Self, Let Me Be Great. There's one. You may still there's two there, so you may still see the journal. The journal is just basically an empty journal where you can, write in. You want the inspiration and workbook. I wonder, do I have one? Let me check and see if I have one. Just a second. Oh, I do have one. Oh wait, that's the journal. I think I only have the journal left. Oh wait, no, hold on. Just make me come down here. Okay, there we go. So, don't look at all my books back there, y'all. I was cleaning. Okay, so this is the book. It's called Nah Self, Let Me Be Great. It is Overcoming Self-Doubt, Inspiration and Workbook. And really, it's just written in my voice, which I like. It's just, how I talk. But it just talks about my story. And then at the end of each chapter, it has a workbook portion. And it's specific to self-doubt. It also has affirmations after each one. And let me see, the chapters are basically, chapter 1 is stop doubting yourself. 2 was reflect on your past self. 3 is get to know yourself. 4 is be real with yourself. 5 is forgive for yourself. Accept yourself is number 6. 7 is love on yourself. And then 8 is trust yourself. So really it's just my journey of overcoming self-doubt. I'm still not perfect. Okay? I still doubt myself every once in a while. Some of the stuff that I pull up and I'm like trying to help myself, I was like, you know what? I did write about this in my book. Let me go back to it. But it's just a matter of just understanding self and how to overcome self-doubt. But yes, I hope that you guys are able to check that out. Again, you can get it on Amazon. If you type in self, it will pop up. And then there is this copy, the paperback, and then there is an ebook that you can get to. I hope this is helpful, y'all. I really, really, really do. We are here every Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's what I was looking up. I was looking up to see what next week's topic will be, which is next week's topic is anxiety creating false urgency. That's what next week's topic is, creating false urgency. So see me next week, y'all. Next week, Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will be right here. I usually will post so that way you guys can put on the notifications to get the reminders. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. Again, my name is Debbie. Thank you so much for joining. If you want to know more or sign up for our newsletter, you can go to my website at haveninspired.com and just put in your email and you'll get the newsletter that goes out every Wednesday. I also do events. So if you're looking for a speaker, I do several different events specifically for the workplace or women's events. So let me know. You can email me at info@haveninspired.com. And if you have any questions, you can email me at info@haveninspired.com. Let me see. For therapy, you can sign up for therapy with me if you live in Illinois. I am booked for the most part, but you can join the waiting list if you wish to. And yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Not doctor now. We ain't get there yet. But yeah, I hope so. I hope so. My master's will be done next March. So I still got a whole lot of certifications to test for before I get there. But hopefully, speak it into existence. Hi, Blessed Mess. Welcome in. Trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I think that's it, y'all. Y'all all have a great rest of your day. Oh, you can follow me on TikTok or Instagram at Haven Inspired. Even though TikTok, I don't know what's going on with them. Oracle, I think they messed it up. So follow me on Instagram. Same thing at Haven Inspired. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great rest of your night. I will see you next Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you. Bye. What do I think about personality tests? They're not necessarily. I have a whole lot of thoughts about some of the personality tests. It depends on the testing. It's a lot that goes into that, the way they do assessments and the people that they did these tests on, because a lot of the tests or personality tests were not done on with diverse groups. So it's very limited as far as like whether it actually is accurate or not. I have feelings. I could be here all night talking about personality tests as I'm starting to learn assessments and how that stuff shows up. And I think it also determines based off of the type of personality. Is it just like, oh, is it trying to gauge someone's personality like for the workplace, or is it for personality disorders? Which is a whole nother thing where you get into bipolar disorder and you get into narcissistic personality disorder, and you get into adjustment disorders and all of these things. Because some diagnoses show up in different types of people, right? Versus like schizophrenia shows up a lot in Black men, supposedly, right? So there's so many different things and factors that go into it that I'm still knowing and understanding, but also have a lot of opinions on. So if you're talking about personality tests, like, oh, what's my personality? Like, what type of career, should I go into? That's one thing. But if we're talking about personality tests surrounding personality disorders and diagnosis, that's a whole nother situation. But I would say that's my initial response on that. Y'all have a great rest of your night. I appreciate you. Yeah, let me know. Let me know in the next, because I'm still, personality testing is something that is very complex to the point where I'm still like learning. Like I said, I am still in school. Yes, it's very problematic. Yes, very much so. And in programs, they admit that they're trying to change that, but it's something that is still very I don't want to say new when it comes to like multiculturalism in therapy. But it is still kind of new, where there are some spaces where there is no research, which is why I want to potentially go into my doctorate, because I want to do that type of research specifically for the Black community. Yes, very much so. In the medical field, absolutely. And even in thinking about with Black women in gynecology, a lot of the work that they did in that space were done on Black women without their consent, as well as without a lot of pain support. So absolutely. Receive less anesthesia, absolutely. And it isn't really. And then when you think about the psychology of things, a lot of the testing isn't even there in the Black community. So even though there's a lot more now, or there is a lot more Black therapists, there are still, when it comes to Black therapists, we're still only 10% of the therapy community, which, even though I feel like I see a lot of therapists that are Black, that's because that's who I follow, but we're still only like 10%. And then Black men in therapy or as therapists is really, really small, because therapist or therapy is turning into more of a women's dominated field, but it was initially started with white men, which is where they tested a lot of things with white men. A book for boundaries. Who? I'm trying to think of one off top. I don't really. There is one. I feel like, email me your question. I feel like if you email info@Haven Inspired, email me your question, because there is one that I'm thinking of that I feel like I have, but I don't see it right now. Yeah. And it might be in my Audible. It might be an Audible book that I got. And some Black people don't believe in therapy. Absolutely. Because when it comes to therapy, it's hard for Black people specifically to trust therapists or trust the medical field in general. To trust any level of authority, honestly, in this country is difficult when it comes to Black people. But then also to the stigma of course, I don't even want to call it the stigma, but the Black church of, like, therapy isn't helpful, it's the devil and all of that stuff. Therapy, as a Christian myself, therapy can be beautiful when it's partnered with your faith. And that the lie of it not being able to be partnered with your faith, even though there are some elements that are of therapy and some theories that may not align, you find the right therapist, you'll be able to make a whole lot of progress when it comes to your mental health. Let me see. Set boundaries, find peace. I would have to look at that one. I would have to set boundaries. Is that the one I was thinking about? I know what the cover of the book looks like, but I couldn't think of the title. Let me see. Is it the one I was thinking of? That is the one I was thinking of. That is the one I was thinking of. Set boundaries, find peace, a guide for reclaiming yourself. Yes. Yes, that is the one I was thinking of. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm halfway. I halfway finished it. I didn't finish it all, but it was good so far. Anyway, I'm not American, but I am Black, and I appreciate your desire to improve the lives of your fellow brothers. Absolutely. That's always been my goal. You're awesome. Re-entry as missing these points, rehabilitation. I'm not understanding your comment. Much success to you. Thank you. All right, y'all. Yes, I'm gonna make sure, and it popped right up in my Audible, y'all. So I knew it was somewhere. I couldn't think of it, but yes, that is the book. Set boundaries and find peace. And yeah, y'all have a great rest of your night. I appreciate everybody. Y'all have. I'll see y'all all next week, hopefully. And did I give y'all the topic? Yes, anxiety, creating false urgency. Okay. Creating false urgency is what we're going to talk about next week. Y'all have a great rest of your night and a great week, and I'll see you then. Bye. You're welcome.